Hello, my name is Morgan, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about reading, writing, productivity, and academics. And today I bring you a video about reading, specifically my reading habits. The reason I'm bringing you this video now is because I've been in a reading slump for most of 2024 so far, and it is only just recently that I managed to pull myself out of that slump, and I did so with the book The Three-Body Problem. It was phenomenal, 6-star read for me. I'm starting the Netflix series now. That book single-handedly lifted me out of this reading slump, and I'm back on the train. So now that I am reading regularly again, I wanted to talk to you about what my habits are like when I'm in a kind of period of regular, consistent, enjoyable reading. Because up until this month, my reading was really kind of like chaotic and irregular, and I really couldn't finish a single book. I would start a book, get like 50 or 100 pages in, and then put it down, start a new book. Like I just couldn't get into anything. Luckily, I have started finishing those books that I started while I was in my reading slump. I recently finished Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty, which was great, and I also want to watch the series for that now. But that's not what we're talking about in this video. In this video, we're specifically talking about my reading habits, and I have conveniently pulled up a reading tag to give you this information. If you don't know what a tag video is, it's basically somebody will come up with a list of questions, respond to those questions in a video, and then they will tag their friends, their fellow booktubers, for instance, and suggest that they should do this tag next. So I'm doing a tag called the Currently Reading tag, which was originally posted by Charlie Ray, and it has 10 questions about my reading habits. Question number 1 is, how many books do you usually read at once? And like I said, recently this number has been very high and I am trying to reduce it, but typically when I am reading regularly, I will still have about 5 books on the go. I'm going to show you some of the books that I currently have on the go in the B-roll. They are organized from most finished to least finished, and I'll show you how much of the book I have left as well. But here's the breakdown. Here's why I usually have so many books on the go. First of all, I'll usually have at least one academic book on the go, and that is the book that I will go to when I can't focus on writing my PhD, but I still want to keep my head in the game, and I will continue reading that academic book. And then I usually have one nonfiction book on the go. This is most often a self-help, which is one of my favorite genres, and that kind of helps keep me regulated. Like if I'm having a bad day, I'll go and read this self-help book and things will feel better. So right now for me, that book is Chatter, as well as The Comfort Book. Usually I'll also have one book I'm listening to as an audiobook, which of course I will listen to when I'm running or walking or doing the dishes. Right now for me, that book is Cultish. And for audiobooks, I usually try not to pick something too complicated, like a tough sci-fi. I recently listened to Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson on audio, and that did not go very well at all. Instead, I'll usually read a kind of light nonfiction like Cultish, and then the remainder of the books are fiction that I'm reading, and I usually have one fiction that I'll kind of leave at home and be reading over a longer time scale. Right now for me, that book is the second book in the Expanse series, and that guy's quite chunky, so I can't bring him with me. So I'll also have a lighter, smaller book, which right now for me is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, and I actually just finished this book this morning, so this one's completed. Next I'm going to go on to The White Book, I think, by Han Kang. This book I highly recommend. I am only giving it 4 stars, but that's because the writing style didn't really gel with me, but I think it does for a lot of people because it's very beautiful and poetic. But this is a queer horror romance book, and there's a lot of body horror in it, so if you're not into that, then don't pick this one up, but if you don't mind it, this was a great read. So how many books do I usually read at once? Maybe 5 or 6. The next question is, if you're reading more than one book at a time, how do you decide when to switch to reading the other book? Basically, I read what I feel like reading. There are some practical considerations, of course, like I will switch to the audiobook when I am doing dishes because I physically cannot read a physical book while I am doing dishes. Or for instance, if I am taking a bath, then I will read my Kobo because my Kobo is waterproof. Of course, my academic book I will read when I am doing work on my PhD, but I'm not in a headspace where I can get solid writing work done, so I will read somebody else's writing instead. A self-help book I'm gonna read when I'm not in a great mood and I need to lift myself up out of that. And then my fiction books, if I'm out of the house, I'll read the shorter fiction fiction book that is easy to take with me or the one that's on my Kobo, but also I'll just mood read. So for instance, Our Wives Under the Sea got really horrific at times and like body horror, and I wasn't always in the mood for that. Sometimes it kind of like brought me down, so instead I would switch to Caliban's War, the second book in the Expanse series, because that's kind of a comfort book for me. I find it really easy and pleasant to just drop back into James S.A. Corey's writing style. Next question. Do you ever switch bookmarks while you're partway through a book? Yes, sort of, because usually when I pick up the book for the first time and start to consider reading it, I will just use whatever is nearby as a bookmark, which is usually a receipt or a playing card or a sticky note. And then once I've really committed to this book, then I'll grab one of my actual bookmarks, and I have just an area on my desk where I keep all of my actual bookmarks. And these are mostly bookmarks that I've gotten from bookstores where I've purchased books, because they'll often put a bookmark into the book. And if they don't, then I will grab one from them, because bookstores have the most beautiful paper bookmarks. But I also have some bookmarks from publishers or from companies that are using them as a kind of business card. And I have a bookmark that was made for a project that I was working on, which is really nice. And then I have some that are just gifts from people, like this Taylor Swift one that I love. Question 4, where do you keep the book you're currently reading? I keep mine pretty much exclusively next to my bed. So that's where it lives when I'm not actively reading it. Otherwise, wherever I'm going, if it's my fiction book. Question 5, what time of day do you spend the most time reading? I'm gonna say it's probably midday, because I try to read in the morning when I first wake up, or in the evening right before I go to bed, but reading really puts me to sleep, so I don't actually read for that long if I'm reading before bed. And in the morning, I usually want to get up and go start my day, so I don't read for a very long time then either. But midday, because I will take, occasional small breaks from work. But if I'm really invested in the book that I'm reading, I sometimes will take that 10-minute break, start to read, and then just never stop. And so I'll read for like an hour or something before I convince myself I have to go back to work now. So I'd say midday. Yeah. And then when I'm on vacation, of course, midday is probably most likely when I'm reading. So I don't know what the actual graph would look like of my daily reading hours, but that's my best guess. How long do you typically read for in one go? This varies greatly. Right now, because I'm so busy with other things, the amount I read in one go is usually like a single chapter or less, depending on the book, which amounts to maybe 5 or 6 pages at most. I'm really just trying to get reading in the cracks of time in my day. That said, once I'm into a book and I'm really feeling it, I might spend, 1 or 2 straight hours reading that book, especially as it gets closer to the end of the book. And those are the times that I really read in the mornings, because I wake up and I'm like, I have to know, I have to finish this book. I've got a chunk of an hour. I'm going to finish this book this morning. And then of course, academic books, I might even just read for a single page, but that page had so much information on it that now I need a break to digest that information or take notes on it. So it really depends on the book and what's happening in the rest of my life at that time. Do you read hardcovers with the dust jacket on or off? Off. Absolutely off. I hate the way that they will slip and slide in your hands, because I often read lying down, and to try to maneuver that book from side to side, it's just not practical. So I take the dust jacket off, I leave it on my bookshelf to wait for the book when I'm finished reading it again. Which position do you mainly use to read? This sounds like a question that is better answered visually, so this is one position that I read in, this is another position that I read in, here's a third position that I read in, and a fourth position I read in, and maybe I'll toss in a fifth position I read in. Question 9, second last question, do you take the book you're currently reading with you everywhere you go? And yes, I would say that I do, and this is unique to the fiction book that I'm reading, I would say. Our Wives Under the Sea, I've read this at the bar, at the coffee shop, at the library, while waiting in line for things. I don't read while walking down the street. That I will cap it there. I don't go so far with it as to be dangerous, but I will bring it with me anytime I might have a minute or two. Waiting for a movie to start, that's a great time to read a book. And then question 10, how often do you update your progress on the book you're currently reading on Goodreads? And here's the thing, I don't have Goodreads, so I never update my reading on Goodreads. But I do update all of my reading in my Obsidian, and I usually don't do that until I am finished the book entirely, because my Obsidian is not a social platform where I want to update people on how I'm progressing through the book. The only social aspect of my reading right now is sharing that with you here on YouTube. And if I'm going to talk about a book on YouTube, it's usually better to talk about a book I've already finished reading. So the act of reading, the process of reading, is really a solo endeavor for me. I immerse myself in the book. I will keep track of interesting quotes or moments I want to go back to by using a sticky note or highlighting the passage or putting a note into Google Keep of the page number where I want to go back to look at the quotes. And then once I'm done reading, and really only then, I'll go back through the book and pull those quotes out, put them into my Obsidian, and track just like how many stars I gave the book, who it was written by, when I finished reading maybe, plus a note with all of those quotes and maybe my own synopsis for the book so that I can better remember what I have read. And I have a couple videos about how I annotate my books and how I take notes on my books in Obsidian, so if you're looking for a video to watch next, I recommend one of these ones. Another thing I'll mention is that sometimes before reading a nonfiction book, I will go to the app Shortform and see if they have a summary of the book, and then I can just flip through that and see if this book is something I actually want to read. And it has the added bonus of if I do read that book, Shortform has great summaries, but also analyses and different exercises you can do alongside the book to gain a deeper experience of it. And I have an affiliate link for Shortform, so if you're interested in an app like that and you're thinking of purchasing one, then you can do it with my link below because you will also get a discount on Shortform and then I'll get kickback as well. So everybody wins. But that's all for today's video. Let me know what you are currently reading in the comment section below. It's a Saturday for me, so I think I actually am going to go pick up the White Book and start reading something new because I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll with reading lately. And I'll see you in another video again soon. Bye everybody!